there's 3 things you need to know. Your equipment is safe, like your holster, your mag pouches, your gun is all safe. You need to know the range commands, and you need to know all the different ways you could possibly be disqualified. Being disqualified means you've committed some safety infraction, and we don't want any unsafe things to happen, right? And so if you're going to get thrown out of here for being unsafe, I should probably tell you ahead of time what is safe and what's unsafe, right? That's, to me, that seems logical. And so I have paraphrased all the disqualifications in the rule book. So, and it goes something like this. Disqualification. So first of all, we have accidental discharges, okay? And there's a very specific list of what those are and what they're not. First of all, any shot which travels directly over a backstop or a berm, okay? Any gunshot, any bullet that travels over that berm is deemed to be an accidental discharge, okay? And that's pretty much the worst accidental discharge. The actual 100% worst AD is when someone on the range gets shot, okay? And that doesn't happen. That's like a thing it doesn't happen, okay? I mean, it has happened, but it doesn't happen. Second to that, the second worst possible thing that could happen is a round leaves this range, because we don't know where that bullet's going to go. If it hits somebody, if someone discovers it because it hit their car or their house or whatever, all it takes is them and a lawyer to shut this whole place down and bulldoze this, and this will all become houses. And so that, we don't want that, right? So that's a really, really, really bad thing to happen. So number 1, any shot which travels directly over a backstop or berm. So don't let that happen. How do you not let that happen? Maintain trigger control. We'll get into that. A shot which strikes the ground within 10 feet of where you're standing, unless there's actually a target there to shoot at. That's by definition an AD. A shot that occurs while loading, reloading, or unloading. If that gun goes bang while you're loading, reloading, or unloading, that's an AD. A shot which occurs while clearing a malfunction. If you've got a malfunction on your gun and you've got, a stovepipe or something, you're trying to clear a malfunction and the gun goes bang while you're clearly not trying to shoot at targets, that's an AD. A shot which occurs while transferring the firearm between hands. Sometimes in this sport you are forced to shoot with your right hand only or your left hand only, and transferring that gun from shooting from both hands and then transferring it, say, to your weak hand. If the gun goes bang while making that transition and you're not actively, obviously engaging targets, if the gun goes bang, that's an AD. A shot that occurs during movement, except while you're actually shooting at targets. This is a dynamic sport. Shooting on the move is encouraged, and it's encouraged. I mean, it's like, to get a better score, you kind of need to be able to shoot on the move. If you're brand new to this kind of, is anybody brand new, like never moved with a gun in their hand? Everybody's done a little bit? No?
There's no shame in it, bro.
There's no shame, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like, you guys shoot other sports, IDPA, ASI?
ASI.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're aware of a little bit of that, right? So if you're moving while not obviously engaging targets and the gun goes bang, that's an AD. A shot which occurs while retrieving a staged firearm off a table or surface. So sometimes the ready condition for the gun is staged on a table or a barrel rather than being in your holster. And so when the buzzer beeps and you go to pick up your gun, if it goes bang, that's an AD. Your PCC guys, sometimes a PCC guy, it's illegal to have a laser on a PCC and you lay it on the table, and sometimes there's a target right there and you're like, I'm going to situate my gun so the laser's right on the target. And when the buzzer goes beep, I'm going to go bang, bang as I pick it up or even before I pick it up. It's legal to do that. It's recommended that you go ahead and tell the RO, hey, I'm going to do this, okay? Anytime, not just PCC guys, but anytime you guys think you're going to do something weird that I haven't seen anybody do this, and I think I'm going to do something that's really going to, boost my score or shorten my time. Anytime you do something weird, just tell the RO, hey, by the way, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go that way first. Everybody else went this way first. I'm going to go that way first. Just tell the RO so there's no surprises, okay? If you're going to go bang, bang, and you could do it with a pistol too, really. I mean, I wouldn't, but you could. It's legal to do so. It's legal to shoot your pistol from a table, but tell the RO. Do you have a gun on you?
Yeah.
Is it loaded?
Yeah.
Go unloaded, Marcel. This is a cold range. Okay, you guys, if you're ASI, you should know this. I don't know what ASI is, but like how their rules are, but this is a cold range. You do not show up with loaded guns on the range, all right? Show up with empty guns. Not to fail a damn safety check.
I'm new.
How new are you? You shot ASI?
I shot ASI, but
Is it legal to show up with a loaded gun?
yeah. I mean, it's my carry.
Yeah. I mean, we all carry, but
But
not,
doesn't ASI do a? You can draw competitive carry, right?
I mean, I have a whole belt set up. This is not my.
yeah. We'll get you lined up. Get you lined out. Yeah, for USPSA, I can't say what ASI does, what the rules are. I don't know that much about it, but for USPSA, it is a cold range. There are no loaded guns on this range at all until it's your turn to shoot. So you show up with an empty gun, you go to the safety table, you put your empty gun from a bag to your holster, and the gun's empty the whole time until it's your turn to shoot. Okay? And we're going to cover that. So those are all the accidental discharges. Okay? Those were 7 different types of accidental discharges. Notice that sometimes, you know, I mean, this is a sport, this is a fast sport, right? Like, there's a lot of fast shooting, a lot of fast movement. If you draw your gun and you come up and you're starting to press the gun out and you're not quite on target because, you know, you're just not there yet. You're not quite on target and the gun goes bang as you're coming up, is that an accidental discharge? It's not, because it didn't fit the bill. If the round did not go over the berm, it didn't strike the ground within 10 feet, and yada yada yada. All these things didn't happen. We weren't loading, reloading, unloading. If we just took a loaded gun out of the holster and we're coming up, and I'm not looking through the sights yet, and I'm pressing out, and the gun goes bang, and the round goes into the berm, and it didn't strike the target, that's not an AD. It might surprise you. You might go, "Whoa, I didn't mean that to happen." Keep going. Clock's ticking. Just go ahead and continue. Get back on target. It's unusual. I'm not going to tell you that that happens all the time. It might happen to you. If it does happen, just keep going. Okay. If the round hits the backstop, no harm, no foul. There's no rule that says you have to be accurate. That was just an inaccurately fired shot. Okay. You like that? That was all that was. The round struck the berm. All that was a shot fired inaccurately. All right, so now those are all the accidental discharges. Now we've got unsafe gun handling. Here we go. Handling a firearm anytime except in a designated safety area or in response to a direct RO command. That is a DQ. That means when you're standing back here and you're watching people shoot, don't handle your firearm. You may rest your hand on top of the gun, but that gun cannot clear the holster. Do not make it click and pop. You know, here we go, a click in your holster. Don't just go click, unclick, click, unclick, click, unclick. Playing with your gun is no go, all right?
So,
no bueno.
quick question in regards to holsters. So, we are allowed to have the gun in the holster for listening as long as it's in it? Is it going to be with this side locked back?
No. We'll cover that, but generally, you will be walking around the range with an empty gun all day long. Until it's your turn to shoot, you'll load it, you'll shoot, you'll unload it, and then you'll walk around with an empty gun until it's your turn to shoot on the next one, okay? So, and no, the slide's not locked back, there's chamber empty and all that.
So touching the gun when it's holstered, like in his case, could he adjust the brightness of the dot?
Yes.
Or is that just who
Yes. So if you've got a dot, if you've got a dot on your gun, you can adjust the brightness, you can turn off, as long as that trigger remains inaccessible, okay? Once we deem that your holster is safe and it prevents access to the trigger, when the gun is in the holster, the gun is inert, okay? It's not a dangerous thing, and yes, you can push buttons on your optic, no problem. For handguns. For PCCs, not so much. PCCs, you cannot mess with the rifle when it's outside of the direction of the range officer. So that number one, handling the firearm anytime. So muzzle brakes 180. Does everybody understand the concept of 180? You got directly downrange, you got 90 degrees this way and 90 degrees that way. If the muzzle goes past that 180, whether it's loaded or not, whether a shot is fired or not, that's a disqualification. During the course of fire, dropping or losing control of the firearm or causing it to fall off a table, like if it's staged on a table and you go to grab it and you knock it off the table or the barrel or whatever. Dropping a gun, causing it to fall or losing control of the gun. During the course of fire, that's a DQ. If this happens, do not try to catch the gun. If it's falling, let it fall. Everyone's gun should be drop safe, okay? You should have functioning safeties, internal safeties in the case of Glocks and all these modern striker guns. Your firing pin block should be in place to keep any kind of discharge from happening when that gun hits the ground. It might get scratched. I don't care if your gun's $5,000, let it fall. There was a guy about 4-ish years ago in Canada, British Columbia, Vancouver area that lost control of his gun, tried to catch it, and in the meantime his fingers got in the trigger guard and he shot himself and he killed himself at the range, at the match, okay? Let it fall. For that reason, let it fall, okay? So, if the gun falls, you lose control during the course of fire. If it's outside of the course of fire, if we're just taping targets, if the guy's done shooting and you just got a roll of tape and you're helping tape targets, and it's not likely to happen unless you got one of these bikini kind of type holsters that barely holds onto the gun, but somebody bonks into you and knocks your gun onto the ground, don't pick it up, stop, call an RO, say, hey, we got a gun on the ground. That gun fell outside of the course of fire. It's not a DQ. Just don't pick it up, because then you would be handling a gun without RO supervision. Okay, if you go to pick it up, you're now handling a gun. So you just stand over it and you say, hey, well, we got a gun on the ground. We need an RO, and the RO will come over. Whatever direction the muzzle's pointing, he'll get all the people away from that direction, and he'll get people away from the direction which is downrange, because he's going to pick up the gun, turn it downrange, clear it, hand it to you, make you clear it, make you holster it, and then no harm, no foul. Okay? If somebody's shooting and you're back here and the same thing happens and somebody knocks your gun out, you've lost your gun during someone else's course of fire, right? That's not a gun drop during the course of fire. Is that clear? So the gun drop during the course of fire is during your attempt at the course, okay? Okay, drawing or holstering a handgun within the confines of a tunnel. A tunnel is a very rare thing to see in this sport. We have tunnels, we have Cooper tunnels. Generally what they mean is there's two walls with a lid on it, and it causes you to have to crouch down, and there's usually a port to shoot out of while you're crouching and kind of crawling through or whatever. Usually there's a port to shoot out of downrange, and usually the tunnel's going to go side to side. You cannot draw or holster a handgun in a tunnel. Why? Does anybody know why? Huh? You could.
Don't know the direction downrange, can you see it?
Yeah, if I'm bent over, which way is the gun pointing?
Behind you.
It's probably going to be breaking the 180 somewhere, right? And so for that reason, you're not allowed to holster or draw a gun within a tunnel, okay? The muzzle points at any part of the person's body, sweeping, flagging, whatever you call it. We call it sweeping. Anytime the muzzle points at your body, which is usually going to be something like this, like sometimes you have to open a door. Where's the gun pointed when you're grabbing a doorknob? Make sure the gun's here or here, not pointed at your hand when you're opening a door, for example, okay? The only exception to that rule is drawing or holstering. You're probably going to be pointing at your toes and your lower leg. That's the only time there's an exception to that rule as far as sweeping goes, okay? You're not going to get called for sweeping the moment the gun clears the holster. Oh, you're pointing at your leg. Well, yeah, so is everybody else, right?
Yeah,
There's no way to avoid
11, so sorry we're late.
that. We'll get you caught up.
What about appendix?
We'll cover that. Do
Okay.
you have a gun on you right now?
No.
Okay. Do you? Okay. Good. We'll cover that.
Huh?
I don't like that.
Cold range.
Cold range. Yeah, do not show up to USPSA match with a loaded gun.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was
All right.
wondering about drawing.
We'll cover it.
Okay.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
We'll get into that individually with you.
Okay.
So, we're currently running through a list of disqualifications.
Okay.
Okay? You missed some stuff. we can double back, whatever. One of the things we want to make sure that if you're disqualified, it's because you did something unsafe, and part of the safety check is to make sure that you know all the unsafe things so you don't do them, right? Okay. So we're halfway through the list right now, sort of. Okay, if the muzzle points any more than 3 feet behind your feet while drawing or reholstering, that basically means the holster angle is really extreme, and that's really, really rare. Just imagine if I had a laser cartridge in my bore, and I had the gun in the holster. If that laser dot was any more than 3 feet behind where I'm standing, that's unsafe, and that needs to be addressed before we get to the point that you're drawing the gun out of the holster. So, really rare. Wearing or using more than one firearm at any point during course of fire. You will only have one gun on you, period, okay? No, like, this is my competition gun, and I've got a J-frame in my back pocket for when I leave here. Like, none of that, right? One gun on you at any time. Is that clear? The most common violation of that is some kind of ragtag outlaw, or not really outlaw because they can do whatever they want because it's not official rules, but say a USPSA match that has really, really low turnout, and you got guys that want to shoot 2 guns, like, I want to shoot my PCC and my handgun. Well, while you're shooting the PCC, you can't have the handgun in the holster. It has to be bagged before you step up to the line with your PCC. That would be like the most common way of violating that rule. Failure. Okay, get ready for this. These next few sound exactly the same. Failure to keep your finger outside the trigger guard while clearing a malfunction. Failure to keep your finger outside the trigger guard while you're loading, reloading, or unloading. Failure to keep your finger outside the trigger guard during movement. Okay, so all those things, what's the common theme here? Keep your finger outside the trigger guard, not just off the trigger, but completely outside the trigger guard while you're not actively engaging targets. If you're moving from point A to point B and not actively engaging targets, if you're loading, reloading, unloading, clearing malfunction, pretty much everything except for actively engaging targets, your finger should be outside, must be outside the trigger guard, preferably up on the frame. But if you're a type to hold your gun and have your finger way out here, that's fine. I kind of like to have my finger on the frame. That's just me, and it kind of gives me an index so I know where I'm at, so I know that I'm not in the trigger guard. But if you do that with your finger way out here, that's fine too.
Is that DQ?
What?
Failure to keep your...
Yes, these are all disqualifications. This is a list of disqualifications. If you're moving and there's a big wall and you're moving from one end of the wall to the other and there's no targets to shoot at, and you've got your finger inside the trigger guard, you're going to get stopped. You'll be disqualified for that, and you'll be done for the day. If I didn't already mention, let's double back, and we got new people here too. If you're disqualified, in the section, our section has a policy that once you have a disqualification, the clock starts ticking, and you've got 3 months. If you have another disqualification, a second disqualification within those 3 months, you're going to have to come back to do another safety check, remedial safety check, before you're allowed to shoot again. And you cannot shoot another match in this section, or 6 or 7 clubs in this section. You cannot come back and shoot another match till you've had a remedial safety check. We go over the reason you got disqualified. We really hammer that. And then after that safety check, you can come and play, but there's another 3 months starting from that safety check. There's another 3 months period that if you have another disqualification, we do it again. You come back for another remedial safety check. And then the second remedial safety check, the 3 month clock starts ticking again. And if you have another DQ in those 3 months, you're done for good. Actually, I think somewhere in there's like a mandatory, there's a mandatory 3 or 6 month break.
There's no second remedial. You get one
Yeah,
remedial,
there's a
and
mandatory,
3 month probation.
the policy's on nwsection.org, but essentially that's kind of basically how it goes. The second time there's like a mandatory break, like you are absolutely not allowed to come back. We can't do a safety check next weekend and get you right back in. Like there's a mandatory cool down period, break period before you can come back, and then there's like one more chance and then you're done for good, for life. So yeah, just throw that in there. So all those failure to keep the finger outside the trigger guard, right? It should be second nature to have your finger up on the frame while you're moving around with the gun. practice that if you don't already. Holstering or placing a firearm down on the table in any of the following conditions. If it's a safe action, if it's a single action gun like a 1911, with it loaded and the safety not applied. 1911 type gun has to have the manual thumb safety applied before it goes in the holster or before it goes on the table. A double action gun with a hammer cocked and the safety not applied. So if you got like a Beretta type or a CZ type hammer fired gun, either the safety is on and the hammer's back, which means you're not shooting production, but we'll get into that, or we won't later, but whatever. You got to hit the decocker to decock that hammer. If you're shooting some division that allows you to have the hammer back, the safety's got to be applied, okay? Because just in those two examples, you're just one really super light single action trigger pull away from that gun going bang. So there needs to be a safety on before the gun is placed down on the table or it goes in your holster.
So she has a 365 XL with a thumb safety. The same thing on that, or
Striker,
Okay.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
striker. So there's internal safeties on that,
Okay,
right?
sounds good.
Yeah.
okay,
So there's some thumb safety's optional on that, I
okay.
believe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I check that
Revolver
out when we're done?
We
and
don't have them with us.
Oh, you don't have it with you?
Oh, not today, yeah.
any revolver
This
with the
goes
hammer cock. No revolver should have a hammer cock when it's placed in the holster on the table. All right, handling live or dummy ammo or training rounds or empty cases or loaded magazines in the safety area. Does everybody understand the concept of the safety area? So safety area is right down there. Is there another one somewhere? Ah, this is one right here?
Yep.
Right there?
Oh, wait, no.
Or no?
That's that one.
Okay, so
There's three more down there.
so remember, keep in mind the concept is,
Safety area.
the concept of the safety area is that the concept of the safety area, that's the only place you can handle an unloaded gun. So that's basically when you arrive, you get out of your car, you put your belt on at your car, you walk over to the safety area, you take your gun out of the bag, you put it in your holster, and that's what the safety area is for. There's no ammunition handling in the safety area, nothing that looks like ammunition. No dummy rounds, no snap caps, no laser training cartridges, none of that stuff can be in the safety area. If I'm standing 15 feet away and it looks like you have ammo, that's a problem, okay? If you show up to the safety area and you pull your gun out of the bag and you rack the gun and a training round comes out, that's a problem. Problem meaning DQ. So, empty guns only at the safety area, ammunition can be handled anywhere else except the safety area. So we keep those two.
Mags be at the safety area?
You may have magazines on you. You can have loaded magazines on your belt. You can have loaded magazines in your bag. You can have a bag full of loose ammo. Just don't handle that ammo. If you have a bag of loose ammo, have your gun in a different compartment. Okay, keep that zipped. All right.
That's fine, yeah.
Loaded mag, loaded mag on your belt is fine. Just don't handle it.
My suggestion is just don't bring mags into the safety area. Just don't do it.
It is legal
You
if
can.
you feel like dry firing at the safety area with your empty gun and you want to do some draws and make sure your holster's in the right place and it feels familiar, and if you haven't handled the gun in 3 months, you want to make sure it feels familiar, by all means do that. Do your dry fire. If you have an empty magazine, totally fine to practice a reload with an empty magazine. Just make sure there's no ammunition or anything that looks like ammunition in that magazine, okay? It's not super common, but it's totally legal. Dry firing is pretty common. Everybody's gonna do
You'll
a
see
few.
a lot of it tomorrow.
Everybody's gonna do several dry draws when they first arrive and kind of make sure their holster feels like it's in the right spot, you know. So, okay, having a loaded firearm anytime other than when specifically ordered by the range officer. That means you get the official range command, and we'll go over those. So, no loaded firearms anytime on the range. If somebody's carrying, because we all get carry permits probably. Is there an unloading station officially here? How does it work at Renton?
So the way we normally do that is if you show up with a hot gun, you go find an RO.
You immediately-
take you
yeah.
into a bay,
Yeah.
unload you into a bay.
Immediately
You're in
come
safety
find
position.
a match official, not just
So
any,
just like we just did.
not just any RO, but
No.
a match official. Okay, whatever. If you show up with a loaded gun, find somebody and say, "Hey, I have an empty gun. I need to get unloaded before we proceed at all." Right? That's essentially it. It's easier to just.
Nope, do not take it off in the car.
It's easier
That
to
is
just.
handling in the car. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Then you're handling a gun on the range, and that's.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
It's much better if you come and have a
At Marysville, just inside our front gate, we've got a bunker built out of railroad ties, and that's where you pull up You get out of your car, you unload the gun inside the bunker, and then you're fine there, right? So that's how we do it.
Yeah, I normally roll up with the concealed carry and just like pull it with my buddies.
I just
unload.
on match day, it's like, where am I going? I'm not expecting to need a gun right that morning, so. Okay, so here we go. Retrieving a dropped firearm anywhere on the range. Remember, like we said, if a firearm is dropped, don't pick it up because now you're handling a gun without permission. So anytime you retrieve a dropped firearm anywhere on the range, that's a DQ. If a gun drops, like I said, just stand over it and say, hey, we got a dropped gun, we need an RO, let an RO handle it. If you're an RO, that doesn't matter. You can't handle your own gun. You need another RO to supervise and come in and take control of that situation if a gun's on the ground. It's unusual, but it happens. Using metal piercing, steel core, steel jacket, incendiary, tracer, or other ammunition deemed unsafe by the match director or range master. So steel case is okay, but not.
FMJ unsafe. I
Yes.
didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
I guess.
I didn't
Well,
know
that's reserved for like squid
Yeah.
stuff, really.
But-
So,
okay.
so steel case is okay, but not steel core, not steel jacketed. We want lead bullets, okay? Lead bullets, polymer coated, brass jacket, copper jacket, normal bullets, all right? No funky bullets on the range. The ammunition deemed unsafe by a match director or a range master, that means like if you're doing your own reloads, if you're reloading your own ammo and you have a squib meaning there's no gunpowder and it just goes pop and now you got a bullet lodged in the barrel. If that happens, you're done shooting that stage. We'll cover that later. But if that happens, you know, we'll get the bullet pounded out and we'll go, hey, you know, Paul, all right, Paul had a squib. In the next stage, Paul's shooting, boom, has another squib. It goes, okay, well, one is a fluke, two is a trend. Now there's nothing in the rule book that says how many, but to me, one is a fluke, two is a trend. Okay, now Paul, we've had it twice. You may not use that ammunition anymore. Now I'm telling you that ammunition is unsafe and you either need to go find another source of ammunition if you've got a factory batch or if you've got a buddy that's willing to loan you some for this match and you'll pay him back. I don't care how you arrange that, but you cannot use that ammo again. And then on some other stage you have another squib. Say, God damn it, Paul, I told you not to use that ammo. Now you're disqualified because it appears that you're still using that ammo. And that's the only way I know is you had another squib. Okay, so that's how that goes.
Is that for any malfunction or is that specific?
Squib. This is unsafe ammunition. Okay. No, not any malfunction. If you have a stovepipe and you got a case jammed in there, it happens. This game is a test of several things. It's a test of your skill. It's also a test of your gear, right? And if your gear is choking a lot, well, it's not going to help your score. And so you might choose to get new gear, whether that's new holster, new mag pouch. Like if you got a mag pouch you can't get the mag out of and you're like so tight, well, that's on you to show up with better gear, like whatever, right? That just contributes to your score. The same thing with malfunctioning guns. You got malfunctions all the time and it double feeds and it stovepipes and well, that's too bad. It's just you're just needing more time, that's all. So, but no, that's not unsafe ammunition. I would consider just mostly squib loads unsafe ammo, or God forbid we have like multiple case ruptures. It's like, whatever. So, drawing a handgun while facing uprange, i.e. the front of the holster is breaking 180, right? So sometimes you're facing uprange for the start. You know, so the start position, you know, that's downrange, in case everybody didn't know. Downrange is where the bullets are supposed to go. Uprange is this way. And so sometimes you're supposed to start uprange, and on the beep, you're going to turn and draw the gun and then shoot the stage. So you just can't draw the gun facing uprange, which means you're breaking the 180, right? If I'm facing uprange, and by the way, facing uprange is defined in the rule book as squarely uprange. So with your body square, pointed straight uprange. How far do I have to turn before I draw the gun? 91 degrees. Let's go with 91. I like 91 or 90.1. So if this is my gun, this is my holster, right? And I'm facing squarely uprange, and the buzzer beeps, I turn 90 degrees. Now I'm right on the 180, and I'd probably be good if I turn just a little bit more before the gun clears the holster. So you don't have to come all the way around before the gun comes out, but you got to go at least 90 degrees before the gun comes out. And there's strategies as to which way you want to turn, right? I mean, if you're right-handed, you could turn 91 degrees this way and be okay. You could turn 91 degrees this way and be okay.
Have you DQ'd someone for doing that? Like
It's happened. Yeah, my dad doesn't live around here, and he shot one match with us like 10 years ago or something, and there was a gal that the buzzer beeped and just had a brain fart, and she went whoop, and just drew the gun just without even turning at all. Just went whoop, and then everyone went, whoa, don't do that. So yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
So yeah, and there's, like I said, there's strategies as to why you would turn one way or another. I mean, if the very first target you want to engage is on this side, turn that way. You know, if the first target you want to engage is this way, turn that way. However, if it's neutral, if the first target you're engaged is straight down range and you could go one way or the other, I would suggest, it's a good strategy, I would suggest that you turn into the gun. So if you're right-handed, you turn so the gun is on the downrange side, because guess where the RO is? Right there. He's the RO. He gives me the beep. I turn like this and I draw the gun. He can't see the gun, right? He can't see where the gun is. So let's say I do everything absolutely 100% right. I'm not encouraging anybody to break any rules. That's for certain. But I'm doing everything 100% right. I turn at least 90 degrees. I draw the gun and I start engaging targets. Versus if he's the RO and he gives me the signal beep and I turn and I go 95 degrees, so I'm way beyond. It's subjective, right? We don't have protractors out here, but if I turn way more than 90 degrees and I pull the gun out, but I did it so fast, he's not sure. He's just like, whoa, that was fast. And I go whoop like that, he might DQ me for something that it wasn't really DQable. But if I do it really fast the other way, well,
You have a case.
you're protecting yourself from an unfair call, because if you went so fast and he saw the gun clear, but he didn't realize your hips were past that 90, right, when the gun cleared. It's just like, whoa, that was so fast, I think you cleared the gun before you turned all the way around. Don't give the RO that opportunity to unfairly DQ for something you didn't do, right? So, all things being equal, turn into the gun. So any shot fired at a metal target from a distance of less than 23 feet, that is a DQ. That's usually not your fault. It's on the setup crew to design a stage so that there is no steel available to shoot at from less than 23 feet away. However, if they put the steel exactly 23 feet from that fault line, which is not recommended, the rule book actually recommends if you're only going to have a fault line that's easily stepped over, that you give it 26 feet. But if there's like a wall or a table or something to bump up against and it's right at 23, but let's say there's steel 23 feet from that fault line and then you put your toe over the fault line. Now you have just shot at steel less than 23 feet. So just be aware of that. Don't charge steel. I've seen it done. Any PCC that has capability of full auto, burst fire, bump stocks, or binary triggers, if any of that stuff is functional, that's a DQ. So if you have a selector switch, if you got a whatever it takes to get a full auto or a bump or a burst fire PCC, and you legally own it, I mean, I can't check whether you legally own it or not, but whatever, if you legally own that, just turn that feature off. Shoot it in semi-auto mode. Otherwise, you're fine. If it somehow accidentally finds its way into burst mode and I see you go, I'm like, DQ. It doesn't happen. It never happens. It's possible, but it's uncommon. Failing to point the muzzle of a PCC at a side berm or backstop during casing or uncasing. So when it's your turn to shoot, you're a PCC guy, you take your gun to the side berm, in this case it's a block wall, and you go right up to the wall. I think the rule says within 3 feet, but you uncase the PCC there, You turn it directly muzzle up. Muzzle down's okay, but muzzle up is more common. And then you can walk to the starting line with the PCC with a chamber flag in it. Chamber flag has to be in it. Anytime the gun's empty and you're not shooting, there's got to be a chamber flag. Attempting to clear a squib during the course of fire. So we talked about the squib. There's no gunpowder. You got a bullet lodged in the barrel. You're done. The stage is scored as shot. So if you only shot half the targets and you got a squib, half the targets are going to have missed penalties. It's just scored as shot. You cannot clear a squib on the clock. This is the Emanuel Plotnikov rule. My friend Emanuel used to do this all the time. Crazy. Okay. Those are all of the unsafe gun handling. There's a lot of it. The most important one is finger outside the trigger guard. Keep that finger outside the trigger guard, things will remain safe. Don't break the 180. Those are the most common things, okay? Now we've got unsportsmanlike conduct. Let's not get into that detail. That's just cheating, dishonesty, and failure to comply with reasonable directions of a match official. You know what unsportsmanlike conduct is, don't do it. Prohibited substances, you know what that is too, don't do it. No illegal drugs. If you have a prescription drug that says, hey, you should probably not be operating heavy machinery, you probably should not also be operating a gun, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but that seems reasonable to me, okay? If your medication says don't drive a car, you probably should also not be driving a gun at high speed. So, yeah, don't show up with that stuff. Okay, those are all of our DQs. There's kind of a lot of them, kind of, but they're all pretty basic. Let's go over range commands. That's my next section here. So there are official range commands in USPSA. The NROI, the Director of Range Officers, they strongly, not encourage, require the range officers to use proper range commands. If we don't use proper range commands, bad things can happen, and it's usually the competitor that's going to take the fall for the RO's fault. And so as an RO, we just use the right range command so there's no confusion. Like if I come up to you and say, hey, how's it going? And I'm just trying to be friendly. Hey, how's it going? All he heard, because he's got ear protection on, all he heard was the word go. Oh, go? Okay. That's not an official range command. And then all of a sudden I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't tell you to draw the gun. Well, he's getting disqualified for my fault, right? So that's not cool. So let's just use the proper range commands. And here they are. Number 1, make ready. So when you're the next shooter on the list, we use a tablet for scoring. When it's your turn, I'm gonna say, Paul, you're up. Paul steps up to the right approximate location where he's supposed to begin. Some of these stages, most stages say begin right here. Put your toes on these marks, stand in this box, in this exact location. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's start anywhere you want. You can start on the left, the right, the middle, but whatever it is, Paul's up. I'm just using you because I know your name, and I got your name and hardly anybody else's, but so when you come up to the starting location, you'll get the command, make ready. That's the start of the course of fire. And now you may draw the gun, now you may load the gun if it's a loaded start. Some stages, it's an unloaded start. Sometimes it says on the description, the gun's gonna begin on the table unloaded, or in your holster unloaded, or and your mags are gonna be on the belt, or on the table. Whatever it says, make ready means get yourself in the right location, get yourself in the right posture, whether that means if it's hands above shoulders, if it's wrist below belt, if it's bent over in downward dog position, like whatever it is, right? And also get the gun in the right condition. If it's loaded, unloaded, if it's holstered, if it's on the table, just get all the stuff in the right condition. So now it's your turn to go ahead and draw the gun. You may now handle the gun. Now you're being supervised by the RO. Next command. So now once it appears that you're in the right position, and by the way, this is your time after make ready command. This is your time to get your head straight, to clear your mind, to like rehearse your plan in your mind if you want. Like some people take 10 seconds and they just go boom, 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 gun loaded, holstered. All right, I'm ready. Some people take 30 seconds, and they're like holding the gun and they're rehearsing. Okay, I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna go over here, and then I'm gonna come over here, and I'm gonna reload, I'm gonna go over here. Whatever you do, that's fine. It's your time to get yourself ready, get mentally ready to go. Once you are in the correct posture, position, standing, facing the right way, standing in the right location. If you're just standing there and your hands are supposed to be above your shoulders, I might wait 5 seconds or so. Maybe he's thinking about something. Maybe he's still rehearsing, whatever. And then I'll just go, hey, hands above shoulders when you're ready. Oh yeah, okay, thanks, I forgot. No big deal, whatever. We'll as the RO, we're supposed to get you in the right position, location, condition. Next command, are you ready? That is a question. You can say no. If you are ready, you can say yes. If you are ready, you can say nothing. If I'm standing in the right position and the RO says, are you ready? For me, I just stand there and wait for the next command. And that's what's gonna happen. If no response, the next command's coming. Next command is stand by. Stand by. And then the next is the beep from the timer. Has anyone never heard of timer beep? We all good? We all know what that sounds like? Mine's in my truck. So. When you hear the beep, that's your time to go ahead and start shooting. Draw the gun, pick it up, whatever, engage the targets. When you're done engaging targets, when it appears that you're done engaging targets, like I know where all the targets are if I'm the RO. You started on the left side, you wound up in the right corner, boom, 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 and you finish shooting. And boom, 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 you're shooting and you lower the gun. To me, as the RO, it looks like you're done. So the next command you're gonna get is, if you're finished, unload and show clear. Again, that's a question. If you're finished, you may not be finished. The most common thing that happens is when the shooter's not finished is they go boom, 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 and they think they're done, and they lower the gun, and then you get the command, if you're finished, and then you look closer, oh, there's only one hole in that target. Bang. Okay, no problem. Absolutely no problem. That's a question. If you're finished. If you're not finished, keep going, but if you are finished, unload and show clear. That's the full command. If you're finished, unload and show clear. And so unload and show clear means pull the mag out, rack the round out of the chamber if there is one, and show me clear, but you're also showing yourself that it's clear. You're proving to yourself that the gun's clear. The next command, if clear, hammer down and holster. At this point, when that command is given, there's no more shooting. You've already unloaded the gun, you've already pulled the mag out. On the if clear, hammer down, holster, you've already pulled the mag out and cleared the chamber. And then when I say if clear, hammer down, holster, no more shooting. If you then discover a popper is still standing, a steel target still standing, too bad, it's a miss. We're done now. So if clear, hammer down, holster means if it's clear, I'm telling you, if that gun is clear, this is on you, the shooter, it's your gun, it's your responsibility. If it's clear, hammer down, which means drop the slide, close the action, and pull the trigger. Hammer down, pull the trigger, preferably into a berm, preferably pointed into a berm or the floor, not up in the sky, because if for some reason we miss something and the gun goes bang, we don't want a round going over the berm. So I usually poke mine into the ground, but whatever. Point at a berm, doesn't have to be precisely aimed, just pull the trigger into the berm and then holster. PCC, you're going to hear if clear, hammer down, which means drop the action, pull the trigger, and then flag. Instead of holster, you're going to get flag, which means you're going to open the action again and stick your chamber flag in, and then go ahead and turn off your optic, because once you get the last command, range is clear, no more playing with the optics and playing with the gun. It's just, it has to go from muzzle up, carry it over to the side berm, put it in the bag or on a cart, whatever you've got, and then no more handling of the PCC. If it's revolver, it's if clear, cylinder closed. There's no pulling the trigger on a revolver, because you can see all the possible places the ammunition could be when the cylinder's open. Is that all clear? So
we're used to trigger, pull trigger, holster.
Too bad.
So that's where
these are the
yeah,
official
no,
commands.
exactly. So that's about the only thing that's different.
The range master instructors, they say there's we don't ever want to hear the 3 S's, and those are, anybody guess what the 3 S's are? Let's see if I can remember. Shooter, we don't say shooter. Shooter ready, we don't say shooter ready. We say are you ready?
Yeah.
Slide, We don't say slide. Slide forward, right? That's another like IDPA type. When you're finished shooting command, slide forward. We don't say slide forward. We say hammer down.
So real quick, so
And safe. We don't say range is safe.
Right.
Range is clear.
so when you go and unload your clear, you don't want the slide lock back, just lock clear.
You can lock it back. It's not necessary. If it's a natural thing for you to,
I'm just used to that.
if it's super natural for you to rack it and lock it at the same time, no problem. But it's only going to be there for a couple of seconds before you're going to close the slide anyway. So, but that's fine. That's totally fine. A lot of people do it. Totally fine.
When do you stop timing?
When do you stop timing? Oh, you were done 5 seconds ago? Sorry. No, that's not how it works. The timers have a microphone, and every time the gun goes bang, it records that time. Every shot, when I push the button to start, it starts at 0 and it starts counting. And every time the gun goes bang, it records the time of every single shot. And so the very last time the gun goes bang, that time is recorded. And so all of this unloading the gun is off the clock. So we don't have to do it fast, we just want to do it safe, right? We good?
Yeah.
With all that? So
Thanks
so
for clarifying the 3 S's.
the one S that I didn't cover, it's in the middle of all this, is stop. That's the one last range command we didn't cover yet. Stop. If you hear stop, stop. Stop shooting, stop running. You know, if you're in the middle of this course of fire and you're running hard from left to right, and you know, you're moving fast and you're about to engage a target, I'm bringing the gun up and I hear stop, I'll plant my feet, just get into a relaxed position. You don't have to like freeze like this, right? If you're like this and they stop, you don't want to just do that. I mean,
Fucking gun goes flying.
relax your body, lower the gun, point the gun horizontally into a berm, downrange. If you were kind of skirting the 180 because you're totally legal, but you're moving along the 180 and the gun's like this, but you're moving that way, and you hear stop, just stop, turn, face straight downrange, and wait for further range commands. There's a few reasons you might hear stop. One reason is you've been disqualified for something. Another reason is maybe the wind blew a target down. Maybe the staples came out of a paper cardboard target and it's dangling from its thing. Or maybe the range officer noticed that barrel's not in the right place because whatever, it got nudged and now you don't have the same opportunity to shoot that target that everybody else had, right? There's any number of reasons. It could be a disqualification, it could be a range equipment failure. That's kind of what it boils down to. But what the range officer will do is stop you, and then we'll go through the unload, show clear procedure, and then he'll tell you what the hell's going on.
I kind of went down the rabbit hole of USPSA on YouTube a little bit.
Okay.
And it seemed like some of the DQs came from the person with the tablet. And not just the RO, it was the...
So the person with the tablet is also the NRO.
Okay.
So we've got,
That's
ideally we have 2 ROs, okay?
Gotcha, okay.
You got the timer RO and you have a tablet scoring RO,
Yeah.
and they're both official ROs for that shooter at that time. So like at a major match, at a major like state championship, which we're having here several months from now, there will be 2 ROs on each stage for the whole match. Like for example, I'll be on Bay 1, I just learned. So
Nice bet.
I mean, I volunteered, but whatever. But now I know I've been assigned to Bay 1. So I will be on Bay 1 the entire match with another RO, and we'll trade off back and forth for who's got the timer and who's got the tablet. But we're both watching the shooter, and we're both able to disqualify. Like, because if I'm in a bad position and I can't tell, maybe you're clearing a malfunction and your finger's got a hook to it like this, I can't tell if it's inside the trigger guard or not, but from the weak side, the guy can clearly see the finger poking through the trigger guard. He can call stop and disqualify, okay? Now on a club match like tomorrow, you're gonna have, I'm the RO right now, I'll do 3 shooters and then it's my turn to shoot, so I'll hand it off to somebody and he's the RO for the next 5 shooters or whatever, and we'll kind of trade responsibilities. Each squad probably is gonna have at least 4 or 5 officially trained, certified range officers, but only the two that are running that shooter are the two that are in position, or supposed to be in position to see things like that. If I'm an RO and I'm hanging back here sitting on this chair, and there's a guy shooting, I'm not gonna go, stop! I'm not the guy. Like I'm like, I guess kind of, in a way, I guess you could say I'm the highest ranking RO in the entire Seattle area, because I'm in charge of what we're doing right now for the entire Seattle area. I just happen to be here today. Normally Marcel would be doing this at this range, but even regardless of what my rank is, it's not my job, because I'm back here. I'm not in a position to see things up there that are happening, right?
Okay.
So
No, it seems like it's the only shooting sport where that person's involved in them.
yeah.
So that's why I asked.
Ideally, we want both those ROs watching the shooter. One guy's watching the gun, one guy's watching the feet.
Okay.
Like if you're skirting the fault line, I'm watching your feet and I'm listening for gunshots, because I want to know if you're faulting the line while shooting, right? Stuff like that. But yeah, they're all watching various
Sorry
things,
to keep
and they're both
asking
official guys. Okay, they're both officially there. What happens a lot, which is unfortunate at club matches, is that the scoring RO is like looking at targets like, oh, okay, got 2 alpha, scoring, instead of watching the shooter. Ideally, he should be watching the shooter, and then when the shooter's done, then we'll go score the targets. Ideally. So, again, let's go through it. Make ready. Boom, boom, boom. That's your turn. That's the start of the course of fire. Why is that significant? Now, if a drop gun happens, it's during the course of fire, right? If you drop a gun before or outside of that, no harm, no foul. Let somebody else pick it up. If a gun drops after make ready and before range is clear, that is the bracket start and end of your course of fire.
And
So,
your day.
make ready. That's your turn to load the gun. Get yourself ready. Are you ready? You could say no if you want, but most people just stand there and get ready for the next command. Reasons you might say no is like, oh, I forgot to turn on my GoPro. That happens a lot, whatever. So, make ready. Da-da-da-da-da. Are you ready? Stand by. Beep. Boom, boom, boom. Shoot the course of fire. You're done shooting. If you're finished, unload and show clear. If clear, hammer down holster. Range is clear. Those are the commands you're going to hear. Nothing else. If you're standing at the line, if you're in the start box and the RO walks up and says, load them up, cowboy, don't do it. Don't do anything. Okay? Just go, what? That's not a range command.
I'm going to do that too next time we practice.
That's not a range command. Do not respond to anything that's not officially a range command, okay? And then we'll all be in a better place. You'll have taught that RO something.
I may have
hopefully.
missed this, but if you're walking and taping targets and your gun gets caught on something and it falls out,
Yeah,
is your day done?
We covered that. Maybe you missed it. So that's the gun falling out outside of the course of fire. And if that happens, don't pick it up, because now if you picked it up, now you're handling a gun when you're not supposed to.
Okay.
But if somebody somehow knocks a gun out of your holster while you're taping targets, just stand over the gun, say, hey, we got a gun on the ground, and let one of the ROs, whatever direction the muzzle's pointed, we got to get people out of that area. And we have to get people out of the downrange area, because we're going to pick up the gun and turn it downrange, and then make sure the gun's clear, and then hand it back to you, and then no harm, no foul.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so those are your range commands. Clear? Anything unclear? Scoring. Cool, we got targets. We can like look at scoring. Has anyone ever seen these targets before? There's two shapes of targets. I'll put one here facing you guys and whatever. There's two shapes of targets. This is one of them. One of them kind of looks like a stop sign, an amoeba, whatever you want to call it. It's like an international target. This one's more humanoid, but the scoring zones are the same in terms of their values and what we call them. They're just different shapes on the other target. But we've got the alpha, which is a letter A, and there's also a letter A right here. The alpha is what you're trying to shoot for. There's the lower A zone, upper A zone. Then you've got the Charlie, which goes everything outside of this little eyeball box. Everything outside of that, plus all the way down to here, is the Charlie. And then the Delta is here and all the way down around the bottom, okay? So,
Why there's no...
why is there no Bravo? There used to be. There used to be a Bravo, and it was the exact same point value as a Charlie. And it was there for tiebreaker, okay? That was the reason in the rule book. It was a tiebreaker thing. If we had a tie, we'll go back to look at the Charlies and the Bravos and see who had more Bravos. And the fact of the matter is that over 40 years, that never happened. And so they decided to just eliminate the Bravo because there was the same point values anyway. Who cares? And it also reinforced the target because there was a perforation right here across the neck. So this was Bravo, and then this was Charlie down there. The only Bravo was the head minus the A. There was a perforation right here that made the target weak. And so they just did away with all that. So, good, interesting question. Not really necessary, but interesting question.
I'm impressed you knew the history.
Dude, I've been in the sport 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a few things. So, your scoring zones. Again, Alpha, Charlie, Delta. You're hoping to get Alphas. This is where you should be aiming most of the time. Point values. Is everybody shooting minor power? Oh god, we should go over. Okay, so let's discuss. Let me go through my paper as it's written. Discuss power factor. Does everybody know what power factor is? That's your bullet weight in grains times the velocity in feet per second. You're going to come up with some 100,000 something number, and you're going to divide by 1,000 to come back down to a 3-digit number. PCC is minor power. I don't care if it's a 45 caliber. It's by rule, it's defined as minor power. Carry optics, by rule, it's minor power. I don't care if it's a 45, it's minor power. There are certain divisions that are, I don't care what it is, it's minor power, as long as the power is above a certain floor, okay? So you do that math, and if it's over 125, you're minor, and if certain divisions allow major, over 165 is major, and if you're below 125, local match like this, we don't typically check, but at a major match, there's a chronograph where your ammo is checked. They pull a bullet, they weigh it, they shoot it over chrono, they measure the weight, they measure the speed, they do the math. If you're under 125, you're shooting for fun. You're shooting. Your scores are 0, 0 all day long, 0. You're just here for fun. You cannot play for score and for prizes if you're below 125 power factor. Okay, but you know your 125 is pretty easy to make. That's your typical 9mm. I mean, light power 115 grain might not make it, but at a match like tomorrow, it's not being checked, as far as I know.
So you can shoot 115 grain.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You
Yep.
can shoot the 95 grain stuff that's zipping at 1,500 feet per second.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's, yeah. A
Okay.
slow
It's-
115.
It's a measure of recoil.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
there's a minimum amount of recoil.
Because all that shit just goes.
Yeah.
The-
Don't worry
Most
about it.
115 is 1200, right?
Yeah. Your
Is it?
your
I don't know.
standard
Different-
Most,
Different
You're-
brands? I don't
I
know.
guess if you're loading.
your
So-
standard like factory blazer, CCI, whatever, that's around 133
Is
to
it?
135
Okay.
power.
I'm not even a 9mm
Right out of the
guy, so
factory. Like, don't even worry about it.
I shoot nothing but 40 caliber, so I don't know the 9s
Yeah.
that well. All right, so that's power factor, okay? So power factor for minor power, which most people are shooting minor these days, and probably I think all you guys are probably shooting minor. Your scoring goes like this. Your holes on target, you got 5 points for alphas, 5 points for alphas up here too. 3, if you get a point in the Charlie, it's 3 points. If you get a shot in the Delta, it's 1 point. When
Yes.
major power gets 1 bonus point if it's not alpha. Major power also gets 5, but it's 4 and 2 for Charlie and Delta. So in a division like open or limited, where you could choose major, you could choose minor, there's reasons you would. We're not going to get into it now, but those guys, you know, score differently. Same division, different power factors. They got different point values on target. Penalty values are -10. Almost every single penalty in the sport is -10 points. Let's talk about the scoring real quick. So does anybody know it's hit factor scoring? What that means is you go through the stage, you shoot the targets as designated. They're usually 2 shots per target, but not always. So the stage description will tell you the minimum number of rounds per target. Usually it's 2. So let's say it's 2. You go through here, you put 2 rounds on every target. You're done shooting. If clear, hammer down holster, we clear you. And then we go through, we score the targets. The tablet adds up all these points, the 5s, the 3s, the 1s. It adds up all those points, and then we divide by how much time it takes to do it. So if, let's say you shoot the stage and you come up with 100 points and you do it in 10 seconds, 100 points divided by 10 is 10. You got a 10 hit factor. Let's say I'm pretty wild and I've got misses and whatever all over the place, but I was really fast, and I got 50 points in 5 seconds. 50 divided by 5 is 10 hit factor. We have the same score. Okay, it's all about hit factor, which is points per second. So the highest hit factor, the highest points per second on a stage wins the stage. Everybody else gets a prorated after that from there. So if you got a 10 hit factor and I got a 5 hit factor, my score is 50% compared to you, right? So that's the scoring. The penalty value. So
Shoot past it outside.
we don't have any here. I don't have any examples here. Well, I do have a no shoot. Boom, there's a no shoot. We turn these over. The white side of these targets are penalty, okay? So any bullet hole in the white is negative 10 points added into your score. If you're given a target presentation like this and you shoot 2 rounds real fast and you go 1-1 like that, you're gonna have points on this target. You're gonna have negative 10 points for this, and if that's all you did, you're also gonna have negative 10 for the miss, okay?
Oh
Is
shit.
it negative 10 for every hit on the non-threat?
Yes.
Or do you just get
No.
one per hit?
Yes, every hit, every hit,
Both shots hit the
every
non-threat.
hit on the no shoot or non-threat, if you want to call this a non-threat, but we call it no shoot. Every hit on here, unlimited penalties. You shoot it 10 times, you get negative 100 added to your score. Okay.
So if that one's overlapping that one,
Yep.
and your 2 shots hit here, you get minus 20,
Yep.
and then also minus 20 for a miss.
Yes.
Jesus.
So if every, let's say the cardboard targets, like I said, is typical to requires 2 shots. If you don't have 2 shots on here, you're getting negative 10 for every shot that's not there. Negative 10 for the miss. If you ran right past this target and you didn't even shoot at it, you get negative 10 for the miss, you get negative 10 for the other miss, and you get negative 10 for not even trying to shoot at it.
Oh, so failure to engage. Okay,
Failure to
penalty,
engage.
And then your misses on
Exactly. Because you just saved a whole lot of time by not stopping to shoot at this target, and so your penalty for that is another negative 10. So there's no way to game it so where you can like, I'm just gonna draw and shoot one and then boom, that's my time for the stage. Like, no, there's all this stuff you missed and there's all this stuff you didn't engage, right? So there's you have to shoot what you're supposed to shoot.
Will there be like tuxedo targets and hardcover
Yes.
and headshot
So-
variations?
She's asking about tuxedo targets and blah, blah, blah. If you guys don't know what that means, if you see these targets painted black, sometimes their tuxedo means it's only the center portion is available, the rest of it's black. Sometimes you'll have black across the middle. Sometimes you'll have diagonally, you'll have black. Black just means it's simulated hardcover. Black is simulated hardcover, which means like the target is hiding behind something that's impenetrable, okay? Or you could also think of it as the target's not there. A shot in the black is a miss, but it's not a miss if you've got 2 shots somewhere else, right? Let's say that this half is black and I put 1 here and 2 over here, no problem. I got 2 shots. This doesn't matter because I have the minimum 2 shots required over here. All right, so that's how that works. Now perforations, the benefit goes to the shooter. When your bullets hit a perf, you'll get the higher score for that 1 bullet. If this is 1 bullet hole, right here, and it's in both the alpha and the Charlie, you'll get the alpha. If the bullet hole appears to be 100% in the Charlie, but it just barely touches, it's just tangent to that perf, it spills over, you get the alpha. It's touching the perf, it only has to touch, not cross. Same thing goes for, well, okay, so there's this non-scoring border, okay? This non-scoring border is 0.5 centimeter wide and it goes all the way around the target. And so if you've got a bullet hole that just barely grazes this right here and it doesn't make it all the way to this perforation, that's a miss. It has to at least touch this perforation. Why is this here?
The drive is crazy.
What if you pull the target out of the box and it looks like that? If this is supposed to be the target all the way to the edge and part of it's got a chunk torn out of it, and you say, well, man, what if my bullet went right there and there's no target there? All right, so if there's damage around the border of this target, this accounts for that. Because all this doesn't matter. It's the perf that matters. Okay, so now you have a good, clean, crisp target that's the exact right size. Anything outside of that doesn't matter. So if there's a little damage here, it doesn't matter. That's why it's there. Same thing goes for the no shoot. If you're given this presentation and you put a bullet hole right here on this perforation, you want to come around so you can see? If I put a bullet hole right here on this presentation, what happens? I get both. I get the no shoot because I touch this side of that perf, but I also get whatever is the scoring zone right here. This scoring zone that's visible. Anything from this perforation down, this brown target does not exist. Does not exist. So a hole right here would be a Charlie and a no shoot both.
So the pass-through wouldn't.
There is no pass-through. These targets are deemed to be impenetrable. So if I shoot right here, there is no target behind it. It's just not there. So you don't have a no shoot and whatever's back here. You don't do that. It's just a no shoot. The only time it spills over is if you hit the perf and you get both. You can get one, both, or neither. Well, you get one, or both. Let's say that. How about that?
So if the bullet passes through and it touched this line,
Yeah.
and it's still counted with
Yes.
touching this.
Yes.
Yes.
Just like a bullet hole right here.
Yes.
If the bullet hole's right here and it just barely touches that line, you get the alpha. If the bullet hole is right here on the edge and it just barely comes down and touches that line, you get the Charlie. Same thing here. If the bullet hole is right here, but it just barely touches the perf, you get the no shoot, but you also get the score across the line. Okay? So those are details that you'll pick up on, right?
So like one more question. So when I hit one here,
Yep.
and then one shot here,
Yep.
and I found that I shoot here,
Yep.
and then to compensate, I shoot one more time here,
Yep.
and then it's two alpha, and then one penalty.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
If you shoot and you realize and you know you've done it, shoot again. Get two. You want minimum of 2 on target if that's what the stage is, and like I said, that's typical.
Are there ever limited stages, or are they always up?
What?
Are there ever limited? rounds?
Yes. Are you IDPA shooter? Okay.
Not
So-
anymore.
It's fine.
That shit.
So that's my next thing to talk about is scoring methods, okay? Scoring methods. There's 3 scoring methods. There's one you're going to see most of. It's called Comstock Scoring. Comstock Scoring means take as much time as you need to get 2 shots on every target, or 3, or 1, or whatever it says, but usually 2. If the stage description says put 2 on target, you take as much time as you need to put 2 rounds on every target. If you shoot and you miss, make it up. You want 2 on target. If you shoot 1 here and 1 here and you don't like it, you'd rather have 2 alpha, take extra time and put another alpha, that's up to you. It's your choice. When we score this target, if there's 3 holes, you'll get the best 2 hits, and we'll ignore the worst hit and we'll give you the 2 alpha and we'll ignore the delta. Okay? We only score the minimum, we only score the right number. You could shoot it 6 times, you're only gonna get 2 if it's required 2. Okay? Comstock Scoring, unlimited time, take as much time as you need. If you see steel targets on the stage, it will be Comstock Scoring, guaranteed. Okay? The next most common one, which is not that much common, but it's a Virginia count, that's limited time. No, sorry, unlimited time. Take as much time as you need, but if it's 2 rounds on target, you put exactly 2 rounds on target, no more than that. And you only shoot at the target 2 times only, okay? So in Virginia count, you're penalized for extra shots. So if it's 2 on target, you only shoot at it 2 times. If you shoot at it 3 times, you've got an extra shot penalty. If then we go to score the target and there's 3 hits on it, you also get an extra shot penalty. So you get penalized twice. If you're fast enough, it's actually beneficial to hit, miss, hit, and have 2 on target. It's actually beneficial to take the extra shot penalty. You're trading an extra shot -10 with no points. You're trading a miss with no points for an extra shot. You're trading a -10 for a -10, but one has points and one doesn't have points. If you're fast enough to make it up, it's worthwhile.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Weird, right? If the shooter is too short to see over something,
Yeah.
what happens then?
We try to build a stage. We try to build stages so that doesn't happen.
Okay.
It's possible to get a crutch, an apple box, or whatever, I think, to accommodate you. I can
Sorry,
see where this
babe.
is going.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
see where this is going, but that's we have shorter people than you. Don't worry about it. So it's generally not a problem.
Okay.
Okay. Time for range time. Time for actually doing stuff with guns and holsters and all that.
I want to be one more clear. So during the transition from one state station to the other station, like shooting,
Yeah.
during the shooting. So what is the finger discipline? So do I
Finger-
need to put the finger out all the time?
The finger must always be outside of the trigger
Yes.
guard,
I see.
not just off the trigger, but completely outside of the trigger guard
Yes.
when you're not actively shooting at targets. So if you're just simply moving from one location to another,
Yes.
the finger has to be outside the trigger guard,
Mm-hmm.
preferably on the frame, but just outside the trigger guard.
Yes.
If you're loading, reloading, unloading, or clearing a malfunction,
Yes.
the finger has to be outside the trigger guard,
Got it.
completely outside the trigger guard.
Yes.
If you are not actively shooting at a target, the finger is outside the trigger guard.
I see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.